The boy's voice was barely louder than the wind, but his words cut through the noise of the busy hospital entrance like a knife. She can walk, your fiancé won't let her. The millionaire stopped mid-step, his phone still pressed to his ear, his world suddenly tilting on its axis. He looked down at the thin boy standing in front of him, wearing worn shoes and holding a plastic bag with all his belongings inside. For a moment, the city of Toronto disappeared, replaced by a strange, heavy silence. The boy's eyes weren't accusing. They were tired, and somehow, honest in a way money could never buy. The millionaire, Daniel Whitmore, was a man used to control. He controlled boardrooms, markets, and people's futures with a signature. He was on his way to donate a large sum to the hospital for publicity, his fiancée, Laura, already inside planning the photos. But the boy's words stayed in his mind like an echo. Daniel ended the call and crouched down. "What do you mean she can walk?" he asked softly. The boy hesitated, then pointed toward the rehabilitation wing. "My sister, Emily, she was in an accident. They said she needs more therapy, but your fiancé told the doctors to stop. She says it's a waste. She wants the room for someone important." Daniel's chest tightened. He had funded that wing himself. The idea that someone he loved was using his name to decide who deserved hope made his stomach twist. "Take me to her," he said, surprising himself with the urgency in his voice. The boy nodded, relief washing over his face like rain after drought. Emily lay in a quiet room, staring at the ceiling, her legs thin and still. When she saw her brother, her lips curved into a weak smile. Daniel noticed the way her fingers twitched, the small, stubborn movements of someone who wasn't ready to give up. He knelt beside her bed, unsure of what to say. "They told me I'd walk again," she whispered, almost embarrassed. "But they stopped coming. I thought I did something wrong." The words hit Daniel harder than any loss he had ever faced in business. He walked out of the room, anger boiling under his calm exterior, and found Laura speaking to a doctor, laughing softly. When Daniel asked why Emily's therapy was stopped, Laura didn't deny it. She sighed, annoyed, as if he had questioned her choice of shoes. "Daniel, we can't save everyone. People like that, they don't matter. You promised me we'd focus on our future." That was the moment something broke inside him. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Daniel turned back without another word and returned to Emily's room. He called the head of the hospital and ordered immediate therapy to resume, personally funding not only Emily's treatment but the boy's education as well. He stayed while the therapist helped Emily sit up for the first time in weeks. Her legs shook, tears rolled down her face, and the boy held his breath like the world depended on that moment. When Emily finally stood, even for a second, the room filled with quiet sobs. Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years, pride that had nothing to do with money. News spread quickly. Laura left that evening, furious and humiliated, but Daniel barely noticed. Instead, he came back every day, watching Emily take small steps, listening to the boy talk about his dreams of becoming a doctor so no one would ever be abandoned again. Each visit changed Daniel more than any success ever had. He realized how easy it was to hide behind wealth and how dangerous it was to let someone else decide who was worthy of compassion. Months later, on a crisp Canadian morning, Emily walked out of the hospital on her own, holding her brother's hand. Daniel stood nearby, no cameras, no speeches, just a man quietly witnessing a miracle he almost missed. The boy looked up at him and smiled. "I told you she could walk," he said. Daniel nodded, his eyes burning, understanding at last that the greatest investments are not made in buildings or businesses, but in people, and that sometimes, the smallest voice carries the truth that can change everything.